In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
And thank you for joining us again for another segment of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto, and our guest today, I'm honored and privileged to introduce from DOCOMO Pacific, Mr. Rod Boss, and from GTA, Andrew Gayle. And of course, our own Jason Salas is going to join us on this particular segment. Half a day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Half a day.
Half a day, Nestor. Nice haircut.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad you noticed. So let me just get this all started and ask you, first of all, how did the pandemic affect your business? I can't imagine that there was a lot of people maybe sitting at home with nothing else to do but play on their phones. Let me start with you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our network, I'm just sure, like all the other telecom networks, as I read the trade mags, we've seen an increase in usage across the board, whether it's from the wired broadband service in your home to your mobility to your mobile phone. What we notice on the home broadband is you used to have these peaks and valleys. You know, you'd start in the morning and then it kind of come down, and then kids would come home, and then you'd see this peak after dinner, and that's a peak. It's just kind of flattened. So the peaks and valleys are closer to each other, and the overall usage just kind of rose about, I don't know, 30-40%, something like that on that, as we're seeing a lot more. And the protocols, it's the same protocols. The streaming protocols are obviously the number one bandwidth consumer. That's what we're seeing. For our wireless, our wireless data just continues to grow every month as the consumers' consumption of that wireless mobile data just continues to rise. But we saw a bigger increase in once we did the lockdown. We just saw the bigger increase. The acceleration was much greater than it was before. It was interesting. We also saw, the very first week after the lockdown was announced, we saw this increase in voice traffic, which is like, hey, wow, voice traffic has increased. But then it went right back down after that. So people went down to other things.
Well, if somebody calls me on the phone, I get surprised a little bit because I used to talk on the phone. Let me just move to Rod. Rod, did you get a similar experience at DOCOMO? Because I know when I checked my usage, it was I can't believe I was on there 12 hours a day.
Yeah, we have seen actually a huge increase in looking at March versus February. April when we were in the lockdown, we saw actually in Guam for broadband about 87% increase in the broadband side, and on mobile was I think 15%. So mobile we got a bump. But I think people are using their mobile at home as an extension, using their Wi-Fi's. That's what we think, and so you got multiple devices connected, but they're using that. We actually our voice traffic was pretty flat, and messaging actually declined, has actually dropped for us. And
we saw the same thing. Our SMS traffic went down.
Yep, yeah, that was kind of a surprise to me as well. Is just that people are using other media. So we've actually seen, of course, in the entertainment side, we've seen some big increases. In fact, our YouTube and Netflix are in the 50 and 60% jump. The good news is that we haven't seen any slowdowns in our network. We engineer our network to handle that kind of increase, and so recently, particularly with internet services, we have nodes, all over the island. We've been splitting those nodes and upgrading that kind of consistently with a trend towards data. So, it was good that we haven't seen any kind of throttling or slowdown in the network.
Yeah, I imagine, Andrew, that you guys learned a lot about customer utilization from all this, and you guys, I guess, are gathering that information to implement that in your business going forward.
Yeah.
We are. Like I said, we saw this change. Also, we saw on the mobility side, we saw this change in where our top sites were. And I'm sure Rod might have seen it in his network. Is like the normal sites that are busy typically during the week all changed because of where people are. So as mobility dropped, as mobility was reduced, our different cell sites were now carrying more traffic than they were normally. When Felix Cabrera had his I think it was last week's press conference with the governor, he cited some information, some data that he got from Apple regarding Guam's mobility and how they're tracking if people are actually staying home, and they compared it versus other jurisdictions. And so I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. You can get that kind of anonymized data from Apple. So I just went on and looked at our stats and took a look at the same type of thing over the same network, over the same time period, and we saw the exact same thing. We saw about a 33% drop in mobility. That means what it is we're just recording how many handoffs you get with your mobile phone, and that the number of handoffs just dropped because people are staying put. They're not handing off anymore.
Well, guys, if I could just jump in there, I think it's actually pretty remarkable given the fact that, Guam, because we're a U.S. territory, with our traffic here at KUAM, we've got, obviously a certain amount of people that want our information in a variety of media formats, just on Guam time zones. But there's so many Guam expats that now live in the States, and there's college kids that are going to school out there, or, there's people who are on these forced extended vacations or military personnel. So basically, our peak time has, like you guys said, has been basically spread across the clock.
Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
I wanted to ask Rod, about telework, because in our industry, I was able to do my job essentially from home, doing Zoom interviews like I did earlier this morning. And I know DOCOMO has your lab and is geared towards that sort of thing, because I saw one of your demonstrations. Can you talk about that a little bit more, telework, and maybe how this has kind of maybe accelerated the use of telework?
Well, it goes without saying. Everybody's thinking about telework, because in the lockdown. For us, I'm sure that Andrew will say the same. This is what we do. This is what we sell these services to customers anyway. So actually, we went to full remote working when the first cases were announced. In fact, we actually virtualized our entire call center in 2 days. And everybody worked 100% from home. So as we go back right now, we're also, when we open, the headquarters, which actually we just opened everything today. I just talked to my assistant who's there today. I'm actually working from home today, but he said there's only about 4 people there. People who are in a circumstance that's more difficult to be at home. Then we had to modify our layouts in our office. But we're going back. We're anticipating this is going to be, for the next year at least. But I think it's really fundamentally going to change the way we do work anyway. Even though I've been of course a very early adopter of virtual work and especially video conferencing. We have as you guys might have seen in our HQ, we have a big video conferencing smooth space set up between our Harmon network center and our headquarters. And we do, people don't have to drive all the way from Harmon to Tamuning in order to attend a meeting. So we've been doing that for a while, but I think it's even going to be more. I think these are tools we have, but now we're getting really good at it. And in our company we use Teams. I know that there's a lot of different platforms, or at least 3 or 4 that are pretty popular. But Teams has just been the functionality. There was some functionality I didn't even know about that now everybody's using every day. Yeah.
Andrew, you got any thoughts on telework?
Same thing. Our company just converted to Office 365 right before this pandemic. It was in our plan, and we had converted. And so we moved all of our meetings to Teams. We're doing training across Teams, so all of the training is being done via Teams. It's a very useful product. And right, and Ross, we're still learning about all the features and capabilities of it, but it really has enhanced what we can do. in a teleworking environment. We didn't go 100% virtual like DOCOMO, but maybe about 70-80% of our workforce went virtual initially, and then we're starting to introduce people back into the offices as we adopt the CDC guidelines on what is the proper social distancing and the sanitization of the workspace, et cetera.
Hey, Jace, go ahead and jump in there. I know you've got quite a few questions. Jason, are you there?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Jason,
geek out, just like try and hold me back. Of course, I would mute myself, right? And the nuns in 5th grade would be like, this is like their dream situation, right? But I was wondering, gentlemen, we had the advantage, if you want to call it that, of a little bit of foresight, because as we saw coronavirus, start to take hold in countries in Asia and then kind of like move, and then it happened, like in Seattle first and then New York. Did you guys proactively upgrade your networks or expand capacity in any way with the assumption that it would affect us in some way? Because I know, your networks are obviously very, very capable, but did you guys kind of proactively said, we anticipate this being a very high bandwidth era for a little while, so let's bump it up a little bit more, or were you already well suited to handle that?
In our case, we really didn't have to do anything. Of course, we were watching it really closely. We wanted to see what really would happen. And I've been surprised by some of the data, but yeah, nothing that really, that we had to run out and get some things done. There's been a long-term shift, from voice to data that we've all been dealing with, and we've all had to make some major investments in the network itself just to accommodate that. You remember, even 5 or 6 years ago, our industry has kind of completely been transformed from a voice-centric to data-centric network. And so, we've been, all of our capital expense for the last, I don't know how many years, has been really, really honed in on just getting ready for something, well, not necessarily for this, but for this explosion of data, so.
Yeah, same with us. I mean, we've been, like I said, we're building, used to build out the network to manage your Friday afternoon voice traffic. You build for that peak, but now that doesn't apply anymore. You're building for your data peaks, and data usage just continues to grow. So it was in our CapEx plans as well for adding more capacity to our broadband network, adding more capacity to our wireless network. I mean, we're still adding cell sites, we're still adding capacity, still fibering up other locations, adding small cells, adding macro cells, et cetera. So that was all part of our original plan. Now we've done a few other things to augment some areas that needed to be augmented. We have, a cow cell on wheels, so we put up a temporary cell site on the base to help, help cover on the base while they're dealing with the Teddy Roosevelt and the other ships that are on there. I mean, DOCOMO did the same thing. It's just because the traffic there was going crazy. You put a bunch of sailors in a quarantine space, 14 days, they're going to get on their phone and game and watch videos and do all sorts of things. So the data usage was going crazy. So we worked with the Navy, the JRM on fulfilling that need for their soldiers.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
sure, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think it's actually remarkable that even though the both of you are now, business leaders and you guys are senior managers and executives at your company and you guys set strategic direction, you're both still systems engineers at heart. And I remember, the most impactful event that I can remember was everything that happened after 9/11 for maybe like the next week. I mean, MSNBC.com was inaccessible because the site could not handle the traffic. But, the internet's a much different place. Today, we're able to handle and to load balance a lot better. We can handle traffic. And as Rod said, we live in a world where high definition video is the rule, not the exception. So, in your careers as, guys who live for this kind of stuff, and, you're both network geeks of, of the highest order, have you ever seen anything like this? Or, did you ever envision like any situation like this, and having to build a network around it that could support that kind of thing?
Well, I'll tell you, the worst network event that occurred that I've noticed that hit our network was the tsunami. When the tsunami hit back in, 2011? The tsunami that hit Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And then, it's really bizarre. We're watching it live on TV. You're seeing, on CNN or NHK, this coverage of the tsunami. And then a tsunami alert comes into Guam at 5 p.m. on a Friday. And everybody at that same exact time got on their cell phone and made a phone call, right? And so all the networks were just inundated and could not handle the traffic. And the only thing that really worked was SMS. You can send an SMS because the nature of SMS, which is store and forwards, right? So that was those messages were getting through. This is a little different, right? It wasn't like, hey, everybody get on the phone at once. It's this gradual growth and preparing for that, and then giving you a chance to respond to that. But I'll tell you I when I looked at the traffic graph, at that particular day for that Friday afternoon tsunami, it was a tsunami. It was a huge wave of traffic that lasted for a while, and then it just came down. And so that particular event, I learned a lot out of that particular event. I don't think we can still, it's still tough to build a network out for that. But the importance of realizing that you do need to stay on top of things. You do need to watch your statistics. You do need to keep track of your customers' usage patterns, and prepare for it as best you can to service your customers. That's the mantra.
Yeah, I echo the same thing. I used to work at AT&T. I remember seeing a recording of what happened to their network when there was an earthquake in San Francisco during the World Series. You'll remember this. And they show the traffic, instantly, because the whole nation saw what was going on, and if you knew anybody in the Bay Area, everybody immediately called there. And so they showed a map of the U.S. and all the calls just going right into there. And so what they do, and what we all do in those scenarios, is we block all those calls so that first responders and everybody can keep the network free instead of jamming it up. So we would do that in an emergency. But as Andrew said, in this case, this thing just came slowly and built up to where we didn't have a single event. But the comprehensiveness of this is something that we've never seen, where it's, because for us, our business, although certain parts of our business, internet, home Wi-Fi, this kind of things have all actually, we've seen a lot of growth. Our roaming business, our traveler business, all that went to zero. So we're having a huge impact as a company on one point, and on another point, it's actually growing. So we had to make that adjustment as well. I mean, we've all suffered, a big, especially CNMI, we operate up in CNMI, but their economy is, already hit much worse than Guam. So that's been something we have to adjust to as well.
I'm wondering if the pandemic is going to change the way a lot of your business customers, their needs are going to be for telecom. Is there going to be some changes, some additional services they might want as a result of what they've seen in this pandemic, or how they've been affected by the pandemic?
Both DOCOMO Pacific and GTA are joining several other companies, including the Bank of Guam, in this online together movement, right? In order to encourage our customers to do more of their transactions and their business online, just for the safety of themselves, for how to address this. So yeah, we're seeing, and we're trying to shift behaviors. Long time, behaviors in Guam that have, we've been trying, as a company to get more people to do things online, to get more people to pay things, or, to pay their bills online and stuff like that. It's just been hard to change, but we're, with something like this, it's it's more and more people are doing that. Finally, to the it's a better customer experience for them. It's it makes it for the company. It means I don't have to worry about manning a face-to-face person with another person if that transaction can be done remotely. So there's all sorts of benefits in times of a pandemic for doing all of that stuff online together. And so I think a lot of other companies are recognizing that, including the telecoms, the banking community, telemedicine, schools are going to have to do something, right? So that's just going to be the nature. And the telecom providers, like DOCOMO and GTA, we're going to have to help, fulfill that, provide that backbone, provide that infrastructure to enable that type of shift in the way people do business, people educate themselves, people go about their lives.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
One thing I think is important here is, people, even the FCC has been very reluctant to call, telecom or broadband a utility. But I think that what you're seeing right now, and I think what everyone is experiencing, is this is a fundamental service for every part of your business life or your personal life. It's like water and power. If you don't have that connectivity, you're stranded, as it would be in a power outage. You're sitting there in the dark. If your internet is not working, if you have no connectivity, it's the same as you're sitting in the dark. So I think more and more people will take a much more serious view of what their connectivity is and the tools you have. I think we're going to see some very sophisticated new services. A friend just told me the other day, they called their doctor and they said, well, we've got telemedicine, let's get this going. And she's like, wow, this is great. This little island doctor does it was just FaceTime. They were just going to do a FaceTime call, and they were calling that, now that's my telemedicine. But there's no security, there's no, taking into consideration privacy and all these other things that you need in a real telemedicine application. But what I think we're going to see is these concepts and propositions are going to be developed very rapidly because people now understand how much they really need them, and they're willing to use them.
Well, can I hold both of you gentlemen's feet to the fire though, because and Andrew specifically, because you've got your heritage in Rod's company and what's now known as DOCOMO Pacific, previously known as Guam Cell, started out as a paging company. Obviously, the nature of technology is that would go by the wayside at some point. So does this whole experience for the both of you now force you guys to kind of think about maybe accelerating transition plans that you had from technologies we use today towards more pure internet services? Like right now we're doing a Zoom call that's a pure internet video conference, but does this actually force you guys to kind of think about, man, we're gonna have to change a little bit faster than we anticipated?
Sure.
We're both, both of our net, we have to keep up with the pace of technology. We've been on 4G for several years now. We're all going to 5G. I know DOCOMO has just made an announcement about 5G. We've got our own 5G strategy, and 5G is really all about faster speeds, different use cases that take advantage of what the 5G technology can provide. Lower latency, higher bandwidth, massive amounts of devices connected. So that's really going to help change that type of dynamic in what people do for all aspects of either their business or their life or their education.
Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, I've got to cut in here because we're running out of time, but I really appreciate your being here. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've learned so much. And I wanted to mention here that, that old Marshall McLuhan saying, the medium is the message. Yeah, I think this proves it right here. If there was any doubt before that telecoms was essential, that's all gone now. I mean, we know just how essential the telecom business is. And thank you so much. Appreciate it. Rod Boss of DOCOMO Pacific, and Andrew Gayle from GTA, our guest today on In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everyone.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.